We hear the term broken a lot in reference to Call of Duty guns. We usually mean overpowered, but sometimes, the rare times, we actually mean 100% literally broken. What is up, everybody? Jimmy, your Chaos. Today we're going to be talking about 20 guns from COD history that were broken, in the broken sense, not overpowered. They were bugged, glitched, literally broken. So you let me know which of these broken guns you experienced firsthand. Drop a like on the video, of course. At number 20, the M40A3 in COD 4. Let's go all the way back to the original Modern Warfare to start today's video. Now, the M40A3 is one of the most iconic sniper rifles in Call of Duty history because it was basically the gun that invented quickscoping. But did you know a major part of that was a happy little accident? For some reason, the ACOG scope gave the M40A3 a secret damage buff. Yeah, a little Easter egg there when it was equipped, and it led to a lot of people throwing it on and using the weapon a lot more aggressively than it was originally intended to be, which that led to quickscoping. Yeah, turned into a viable strategy, but it all started off with a broken gun, a bug. The M40A3 had a pretty mid-tier one-shot kill range by default, but if you put the ACOG on it, it was virtually always a one-shot kill. Nobody knows why, and nobody knows what happened. Before we move on, guys, I read every single comment on every single video. I truly appreciate each and every one of you that comment and show up every day. I read them, I try to reply to some of them, and I try to heart all of them. All right, number 19. The SPR-208 in Modern Warfare 2019 and Warzone 2020. The bolt-action marksman rifle that was meant to be a main competitor to the Kar 98K. It was added to both of them. Absolutely took over the game, mainly in the large map modes like Ground War and Battle Royale because of a major bug with one of the magazine attachments. You guys know that in the Warzone era of COD, bullet velocity and travel time became a major part of the sniping experience, but there were a couple attachments on the SPR that actually made it hit scan, just like old school COD. That meant you literally didn't have to think about travel time or bullet drop. You just point and click and the enemy would disappear no matter how far away they were. Now on smaller maps, this really didn't matter since close range quickscoping didn't really rely on travel time. But in Ground War and Warzone, the SPR completely took over. You could instantly snipe people from 200 yards away by clicking on them. The hit scan attachments were patched a week or two after they were discovered, but it was a pretty insane time to be playing Warzone. You'd be running around, minding your own business, and then you'd instantly drop dead because somebody on the other side of the map clicked on you with the SPR. At number 18, I bet most of you probably didn't get to experience this, unfortunately. The Javelin in Modern Warfare 2 2009. You're going to hear a lot about classic Modern Warfare 2 in this video because the game was broken. So there was insane broken guns in the game too. Perhaps the most explosive gun glitch of all time was the Javelin launcher. If you were there during the classic Modern Warfare 2 days, then you probably know where I'm going with this. The Javelin had this bizarre glitch where if you were holding it and then held down the grenade button and swapped to your primary weapon, you would explode into a huge insta-kill fireball. You would take out everybody nearby. It was a gun glitch that turned you into a walking predator missile. Not sure why, don't know who found it or how they found it, but it was pretty crazy. And if you think that's crazy, we're just getting started. At number 17. The FR556 in, once again, Modern Warfare 2019 and Warzone 2020. Now, it was never that popular during this era of COD, but it was a powerful 3-round burst. It wasn't fast, it wasn't versatile, but it was there. It didn't keep up with the other rifles in the game, but for a brief time, the FR556 was everywhere because there was an update that accidentally gave it near infinite range on the underbarrel shotgun. And when I say near infinite, I mean that, guys. In Warzone, this thing was a 2-shot kill from anywhere. It was a semi-automatic, so you could pop somebody twice and they were gone, regardless of how much armor they had on. So for a while, people were ditching their actual shotguns, and they were running the underbarrel FR shotgun because of the range. Now, obviously, it was patched up, but it was pretty crazy. It's probably the only time the FR556 was super popular, but believe it or not, this wasn't actually the first time an underbarrel shotgun was broken in a Modern Warfare game. Who would have thought? At number 16. The FAL in Modern Warfare 2 2009. Same deal here. The gun itself, perfectly functional, worked as intended. If you threw on the underbarrel shotgun, things got crazy. The FAL shotgun attachment had that insane range again, to the point that some people were comparing it to the Akimbo models, which we'll talk about soon, don't worry. Now, in hardcore game modes, you could literally kill people from across the map with the FAL shotgun attachment. I mean, the shotgun attachment back in Modern Warfare 2 had some pretty ridiculous range, but the damage was low. But, I mean, even if you could hit people, you weren't going to kill them unless you had the FAL shotgun. It was bugged. It kept that high damage profile for the entire duration of the range, which made it a literal sniper in hardcore modes. How many of you play hardcore? I don't know. You guys are crazy, but whatever. I mean, do you remember this? How many of you actually experienced this? Before we move on to another 15, guys, I want to say somebody commented the other day and said my voice was soothing, which was a very weird comment. And I've heard it many, many times throughout the years. Like, I don't know why. It's crazy. It's weird. It's soothing. I listen to you in the background, or I just feel safe when I'm listening to you. I just want to say I appreciate you. I was thinking about that just randomly, and that's really weird, but kind of cool too. So my weird voice is soothing to some people. Anyway, at number 15, the M9 in Modern Warfare 2 2009. Now, this bug wasn't nearly as interesting as some of the others on the list, but it still deserves to be here because it was pretty crazy that nobody noticed it during testing. That's how it always works. It was even crazier that it was never fixed. The M9 handgun had a bug where the suppressor didn't actually take off enemy radars when you pulled the trigger, which completely defeated the purpose of using the suppressor in the first place. Now, that would require you to actually use the M9 in the first place, which nobody was going to do because it was a standard handgun that was crappy, and it was sharing the secondary weapon category with monsters. Spaz 12, Raffica, G18s, and a lot more. But you did click on a video of bugged guns, and it was definitely a bugged and broken gun. I mean, I've asked this a million times. How does Infinity Ward not notice the suppressor literally doesn't work on the gun? Should that have not been caught during playtesting? At number 14, who remembers the infamous Proteus in Infinite Warfare? The legends, right? Yes. This isn't a legend, it was true. The Proteus shotgun sniper hybrid. It had an aimbot built into it, kind of. Yeah, the issue here was there was a bug that gave the Proteus a guaranteed hit while using it in shotgun mode, which meant you could just run around the map spamming the right trigger and you'd hit somebody as long as they were somewhere on your screen. Now, I have no clue how something like this even got programmed into the game by accident. I mean, you could see the footage on the screen right now. It's there. People literally just jumped around the map, blew people away from 100 yards without aiming. Infinity Ward pulled the Proteus out of the game mere hours after adding it. But there was a ton of videos of this weird aimbot sniper shotgun. I mean, once again, would have been way too obvious to not put this one on the list, but yeah. At number 13, the Fennec in Warzone 2020. Now, during the later days of Warzone 1, some of the older weapons were routinely getting broken with updates. The Fennec SMG had an insane run at the top of the tier list because of this one. So this was the new COD Universe's version of the classic Chris Vector, meaning low damage, high fire rate SMG, mainly viable up close. But there was a period of time in late 2021 where an update randomly turned the Fennec into a hit scan weapon, so if you kitted it for recoil control, you could take full advantage of the newly bugged accuracy. You could just pepper people from insane distances. It still took a lot of shots to kill, but now you didn't have to worry about leading your shots or factoring in bullet drop at longer ranges. The Fennec was an absolute monster, and there really wasn't any counter to it. I mean, the hit scan aspect, it was eventually patched out, but for an old head like me, it's kind of fun to see the Vector at the top of the list for a while because this is a gun that I always loved, but it never really got the kind of widespread attention that I thought it deserved. At number 12, the AK-47 in COD 4. This was one of my favorite guns in the original Modern Warfare, but as many of you probably know, especially if you played Modern Warfare Remastered, one of the only attachments available for the gun was bugged, specifically the red dot sight. Now, the AK-47 had a damage profile of 30 to 40 per shot, but if you put the red dot on it, it would actually make the minimum damage go all the way down to 20 for some reason, which made it significantly worse at range since you now needed an extra entire shot to kill. Even if you're using stopping power, it didn't matter. So ironically, the attachment that was supposed to make it better at hitting people at range actually made it less viable at range because you needed more shots to drop them. At number 11, the Finn LMG in Modern Warfare 2019. I find this one kind of funny. DLC light machine gun, had a couple attachments that turned into the chainsaw from Ghost, which is awesome, neat little throwback. But for a while, the chainsaw part of the gun was bugged in several ways. For a while, there was a bug that would make your character aim at the sky even though the bullets were coming out in front of you for some reason. Then, there was a different bug that made it so when you held up the chainsaw, your character's arm would be covering the entire middle of the screen, so it was impossible to use. I don't know why the gun was so difficult for Infinity Ward to get working properly in Modern Warfare 2019, but it was kind of funny. You were either firing your gun straight up in the sky, or you couldn't even see where you were firing your gun because your soldier was covering his eyes with his arm for no reason. Maybe he was just scared. Scary. At number 10, the EBR-14 Linebreaker in Warzone 2020. Now, the EBR itself, never a popular weapon in Warzone because it was crappy, clunky handling, inconsistent damage. If you're going to use a semi-auto weapon, you would want something that had damage to be reliable, right? Well, the EBR, It wasn't really suited for a game mode like Warzone, where the time to kill was long and the weapon, like the EBR, would need 3 to 4 shots to kill until the line breaker blueprint came out. Now, for some reason, this blueprint, which was being sold for actual money, my friends, was bugged. So if you're using this version of the EBR, it was a one-shot kill to the head basically no matter what. Now, it's unclear what exactly was going on with the blueprint that gave it such a massive headshot damage, but, I mean, for the few hours that the glitch was in the game, Infinity Ward made a lot of extra money on blueprint sales. Unfortunately, I guess it wasn't intentional, but that was blatantly pay to win, which is frustrating. And now that I think about it, that's kind of sketchy. You put it in, you didn't know about it, right? And then a bunch of people buy it. They buy it because it's going to be this awesome bugged gun, and then you fix it, but they still bought it? Did they issue refunds? I don't know. At number 9, the AE4 in Advanced Warfare. This one wasn't entertaining, wasn't funny, but it was frustrating. For those of you who weren't around during the Advanced Warfare era, the AE4 was a DLC weapon that was added to the game in, I think it was December 2014. So if you were a Season Pass holder or you bought the Havoc DLC, you got instant access to it, but you didn't have to spend any extra money. You'd pull out, or you could also pull it out of a supply drop. But for the longest time, and I'm pretty sure that it was never 100% fixed, some Season Pass holders didn't get access to the gun. So even though they paid the extra money, the gun wouldn't unlock for them. And they still had to get lucky and get it out of a supply drop. So it wasn't nearly as entertaining of a bug as the others on the list, but there was something about the gun that kept it from reliably unlocking for people who paid for it, which that's not broken. That's dumb. At number 8, the MG4 in Modern Warfare 2009. This had to be one of the most bugged guns in the classic Modern Warfare 2 era. Even if the bugs weren't all that big of a deal back then because nobody liked the gun to begin with. I mean, the MG4 LMG had several bugs. First of all, suppressor didn't actually work. So you were still going to show up on enemy radars when you fired it. Second of all, the iron sights, they were misaligned, so you weren't actually going to be on target if you were lining them up. And third of all, yes, a third bug. If you equip the FMJ attachment to the MG4 when the weapon pickup text would randomly change to explosive rounds, which isn't even something that exists in the game. But can you imagine if it was in the game? Yeah, I guess it was at one point. Like I said, not many people actually used the MG4 back in the day because it wasn't that good. But, I mean, it was jam-packed with bugs anyway. At number 7, everything in Warzone 2020. I'm going to cheat here. Who remembers back in Warzone 1 when there was a chance that the game would just become unplayable because your guns randomly turned into these giant monstrosities that took up the entire screen? I remember this. This was one of the weirdest glitches in the history of Warzone. It was possible, I think, literally every gun in the game. Every time you picked up a weapon, there was a chance it would morph into a giant random shape that looked like something out of an alien movie, and it would obstruct a massive chunk of your screen, or in some cases, obstruct all of your screen. And for some reason, the glitch refused to go away, because every time Raven said they fixed it, it would come back 1 or 2 patches later. It just hid there. You couldn't kill it. It was an annoying era of Warzone, and it needed to be on the list, even if it wasn't limited to one weapon. Nothing was more frustrating than calling in your loadout drop, picking your class, and then realizing the match was unplayable because your gun decided to block your entire screen. At number 6, the Akimbo models in Modern Warfare 2 2009. I told you we'd come back to this. Lever action shotgun, Terminator, powerful weapon, secondary, you know it. You see it on the screen. Made it so infamous was that weird range bug. I mean, it would activate once you equip 2 models at the same time. For some reason, the Akimbo models not only had ridiculous range, but they would carry their full damage profile for almost all of that range. They were sniper rifles. And since this was one of the few things that actually got patched out of classic Modern Warfare 2, there's not a lot of videos of the insanity, but some absolute legends were able to capture footage before Infinity Ward pushed out an emergency patch to fix them. So when people say the Modern Warfare 2 era was insane, this is one of the reasons. Akimbo lever action shotguns that were literally sniper rifles with giant hitboxes. Come on. Stuff like that doesn't happen in COD, but yeah, crazy stuff happens still. Now we arrive at the top 5. The Uzi in Modern Warfare 2019. Now in this game, Infinity Ward made the decision to bring back stopping power, but instead of it being a perk this time, it was a charged up field upgrade that when activated would give you a magazine with greatly increased damage, but also increased recoil. But for some reason, if you were using stopping power rounds on the Uzi, it would actually decrease the recoil, which made it a laser beam on top of having buff damage. No clue how this happened. Pretty sure Infinity Ward patched it up and relatively quickly at that after they found out about it, but it did lead to a lot of Uzi spam for a while once the community figured out it was in the game. At number 4, the MX Guardian in Modern Warfare 3 2023. Full auto shotty. Relatively well-balanced damage profile in Modern Warfare 3, I think. Even if it was annoying to go up against because it was a full auto shotgun. But If you were an avid Modern Warfare 3 player, which I was not, you probably remember the era of the broken MX Guardian, where a certain combination of aftermarket parts gave it some stupid, absurd range. You could run around rapid firing a full auto shotty and kill people with 2 to 3 shots from a long way off. I mean, for such a fan favorite Call of Duty game, Modern Warfare 3 2023 had some absurd oversights. I mean, I guess I can understand why, because Sledgehammer was kind of thrown under the bus during development, but the bugged MX Guardian has to be documented here on the Call of Duty Historian channel. It was nutty. At number 3, the SWAT 5.56 in Black Ops 2. We all know the gun wasn't popular. There's that little group of people that'll show up and chime in and squeak in the comments saying, it was good, Jimmy. But it was overshadowed, right? M8A1 was dominant. One way to make this 3-round burst rifle a bit more appealing, though, was slapping on select fire. That was an attachment back then. Turn it into a decent full auto weapon. But for a while, there was actually a bug for the full auto SWAT. And this bug was only on the Xbox 360 version of the game for some reason. Don't ask me why. Where if you turned on full auto, you got this huge damage nerf that turned the gun into a pea shooter. And when I say huge, I mean huge. The full auto SWAT required 10 shots to kill at mid-range. And if you backed up to long range, it could literally take up to 100 shots to kill somebody because the gun was dealing 1 damage per bullet beyond a certain point. Obviously, it was patched out. I mean, if you see this on the video, you probably remember the bug. At number 2, the SC 2010 in Ghost. Now, I'm not sure if this counts as a gun glitch, but I'm going to put it here because it was pretty crazy. COD Ghost, a few different kinds of Juggernaut armor, was pretty cool. One of them was the Maniac, which was awesome. Gave the user increased health, greatly increased movement speed, and kept you off the radar. Now, the point of the Maniac armor was basically to turn you into Michael Myers, but for a while, there was a glitch where putting on the Maniac armor would also give you the SC 2010 assault rifle. Nobody knows why. Putting on the armor just caused the gun to magically appear in your hands, which made you even more of a force to be reckoned with because your increased health and your speed, now you have a ranged weapon on top of the insta-kill melee attack. It was patched out quick, and like I said, I'm not sure if it counts as a gun glitch, but yeah. If you never experienced this one, you know how crazy it was. It made the Maniac even scarier than it already was. Just imagine unlocking the Maniac or getting him, and then all of a sudden you have an assault rifle in your hand. At number 1, has to go to the VAL, right? Modern Warfare 2019 and Warzone 2020. Absolutely wild bug attached to this gun when it was first added as DLC. Now, the assault rifle is mainly known for a good fire rate and a built-in suppressor. Made it more like an SMG than a traditional rifle, and people used to use it super aggressively. But it's here because when it was first added to the game, one of the magazine attachments had one of the most insane bugs in any first-person shooter ever. There was a magazine that would shrink the ammo capacity down to just 10 rounds, but it would also give you a huge damage buff. It turned the AS VAL into a marksman rifle, but there was also a bug that made the bullets completely ignore the environment around them while using the mag, which meant you could shoot people from across the map through as many walls or mountains as you wanted. You didn't need line of sight. You didn't even know where the people in front of you were. All you had to do was fire the AS VAL in random directions or unload on a building that you knew enemies were inside, and you get a bunch of free kills on people who couldn't even possibly see you coming. I mean, the wall hack AS VAL was one of the most insane moments in COD history, and if I remember correctly, Infinity Ward was actually kind of slow about patching it. I don't think it was until after a bunch of videos went viral and after Exclusive Ace made a whole video about it that they finally patched the gun. I mean, I genuinely don't know how stuff like this gets through testing. We've said it a million times. Assuming Infinity Ward even test DLC guns, I don't know. But there you have it. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you soon.